example of a Khan exercise hosted on your own local machine. In this video, we'll be going through the anatomy of a Khan exercise. If you do not know how to get Khan exercises up and running on your machine, click on the first video. And if you want an informal introduction to making Khan exercises, click on the second video. Before we get started, make sure that you have your local server up and running. To check this, go to your browser and type localhost ;8000. If it works, you should see the list of folders. If it does not work, you should see an error. To start up the Python server, cd into your directory and type the command python-m simple HTTP server. So now that we have everything set up correctly, we are going to run through an example exercise. Suppose you have 1, 2, 3, 4 children who each take an exam in a class. They get various scores out of 10 on the exam. We want to know some statistics that describe the student's performance. What is the average and what is the range? So first we are going to go to the Khan exercises repository on GitHub and to their documentation and copy the basic layout to serve as a starting point on our exercise. Save the file as stat.html and change the file extension to all file types so that you can save the file as an HTML file. So each exercise is in the structure of an HTML file. First thing to know is that in HTML everything is defined in terms of tags, which has a format of being enclosed by a left bracket and a right bracket. You might have noticed that there are a lot of div tags. The div tag stands for division, and it is a way for dividing up the document into different sections. For most HTML tags, including div tags, every tag that is open must also be closed. As you'll notice with Notepad++, the corresponding closing tag is highlighted. So in between this opening div tag and this closing div tag is where all the hints would be located. Moreover, everything related to a Khan exercise will be enclosed between these div tags. So I like to think of a Khan exercise as consisting of 5 components: variables, problems, question, solution, and hints. So let's get started with the section on variables. In our example, we want to generate 4 scores for each of the students in the class. So each of the 4 scores can be a variable. We'll start with the first student. To do this, we make an opening var tag and a closing var tag, as shown, and enclose the value of our variable within these tags. To set the name of the variable, we set the ID attribute of the var tag to the desired name. We want the score to be generated randomly, and to do that we can use the range function, which takes a starting and ending integers arguments and generates a random integer in between these arguments. And we can do this for each of the 4 students. The range function is one of many library functions provided by Khan. To look these up, go to the documentation and click on Utility Module Reference. This page shows a list of all the library functions available. Variables are defined sequentially, which means that variables defined earlier in the code can be referenced later. For example, we can define a variable to compute the mean, and have this variable reference each of the students' scores. This works fine since the students' scores come before the mean variable. However, if we had defined that variable before the students' scores, that would not have worked. Suppose I want the mean to be a whole number, so that it is easier to compute. I could do this by using the data ensure attribute. The following code instructs the enclosing content of the div tag to be reevaluated until the mean is a whole number.